Our next session is Road to Success by none other than Pat Johnson. Pat Johnson joined Toastmasters nearly 4 decades ago. During the 40 years of continuous learning and membership in Toastmasters, she has spoken in the long list of countries around the world as a keynote speaker and an educator. She served as the District 21 District Governor in 2011, 2001, 2002. She served as the International Director in 2004 to 2006. And then she served as the International President of Toastmasters from 2010 and 2011. Please help me welcome Pat Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. District Director. Thank you so much for coming to talk about success and what success is. I want to talk specifically and start in terms of what do you think is success in your club? How many of you think you have a successful club? Your definition. Okay, great. So that's absolutely fabulous. I think I belong to a great club also that's very successful. Okay. We all have our own definitions of that. And so we're going to look at what can be success in our clubs, some of the things that we can do, some real practical tips. We've heard some really exciting, mind-blowing stuff from Ed Tate today. I'm going to bring you right down to club level. We're going to talk about real practicalities, things that I've done, things that you can go away and do if you have the desire. Because one of the things I know is that nobody comes and does it for us. It's up to us if it's going to happen. So we have to take action. And because you're here and your club members are off doing something else, you're going to be the spark plug when you go back to your club and initiate some actions to do some deep thinking about how to move forward. So let's look at, first of all, what do you think success is? What would you need in your club to call it successful? Satisfied members. Oh, both of you, you're on the same wavelength, same vertical here, yes. Okay, success, happy members, satisfaction, yes, because they're gonna stay, right? They're gonna be there, they're gonna participate, they're excited, they're contributing. That makes success, absolutely. What else do you need? What else would it be if you're...
New ideas.
New ideas, okay. New ideas, and how would you use those new ideas?
To change your format of the meeting, make it interesting. Make
Okay.
people want to come back to the meeting.
Yes. So programming is critical. How many of you have weekly meetings that you go to? Okay, me too. How many of you, no, I won't ask you this. I would have died in Toastmasters within the first 5 years if I wouldn't have got outside of my club. How many can relate to that comment?
Yeah.
It was too boring. It was too small for me. Even though it was challenging, I was working the program, but I found life in Toastmasters when I got outside of my club. I went, oh my gosh, there's literally a whole world out there to do Toastmasters. And to bring those things into my club that could inspire other people to stay involved. And that's where, for me, I could practice the basics. I could practice the basics, I could try out new material, I could try to do things in leadership I'd never done before, I could fall on my face like we talked about last night, and it was safe. And it allowed me to go into the bigger arenas because I had that place to practice. Yes, so new ideas, try out new ideas, but also bring variety to your programming. Okay, what else and we'll talk about these things in more detail as we go along. What else do you need?
Diversity of the members.
Yes, yes. So this is one of the things that I love in Toastmasters because I was brought up in a very diverse community, and I always thought that's what made our community strong and special. because we didn't see differences. We just saw Mary down the street, and I saw Su Jing as the girl that I went to school with that worked in her family restaurant, and I, on and on and on. And I actually went to grade 12 with Su Jing, and she was Chinese, which I didn't even know until I graduated high school. It never registered to me that she was Chinese. And I was always so excited to learn that. I grew up with somebody who spoke Mandarin, but I didn't know that. She was just Su Jing. And very interesting. So diversity really provides strength and continuity in our clubs, so to embrace that. What else is important? Yes?
Diversity, not just in terms of people, but also their age. Also.
Oh,
I
yes.
get to speak to people who are younger than older than me. We have something in common.
Yes, absolutely. To have that diversity both in demographics, for sure, in gender. Some people used to say to me, why is it important to have a diverse audience? And I said, well, if I'm learning something in Toastmasters, when I go out in the world and they pay me or I go to speak at an event, I can't say, oh, all the men have to leave. I don't speak to men. I have to learn to connect with our audience, whatever the audience makeup is. And as our culture has evolved and we talk about all kinds of things now in terms of diversity that were never spoken about. And now everything is people talk about their preferences, their lifestyles, etc. And those are part of our diverse audience. And so to have that awareness and that exposure in our Toastmasters Club prepares us for when we go out past our club. Yes, so diversity. Diverse education also and background, it really challenging because some people love data. And, Ed talked about the data dump, so we get those people that want to do that. And then if we were all that inclined, then we would go, oh, that was a great speech, and we wouldn't improve it for the greater audiences. So diversity in every way we could imagine is great. Yeah, absolutely. And how many of you love icebreakers? Oh, aren't they just the thing that keeps you going? And I'm always amazed when someone comes in and does an icebreaker and it just changes the room. People go, oh, never knew that about you. And there's such a connection. And as Ed talked about in the stories, you get really to that heart. It's not even a story, but you're connected, really connected with that person. Yes, comment.
Icebreaker is a point of interest for me. I've given speeches about this topic, and the observation is that for more than a few speakers, the icebreaker is the best speech they ever give. And I think that's a really interesting situation to explore. How come icebreakers could be the best speech they ever give, and how can we change that?
Well, I think we can change that by making sure that the Toastmasters promise is alive and well in our club, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Yes, about preparing fully for each assignment, because I think sometimes we really sweat that, and we call our mentors, and we figure it out, and we work it and rework it, just like one of those contest speeches, and then we show up, and we get through it. And we bring, and so often it's so well prepared. And after that, people, in my experience, start to wing it a bit and think, oh, I've got that done. I'm good. And I've got the basics figured out. I don't know about you, but I'm still working on basics. Right. When I first joined Toastmasters, my very first informal mentor, he wasn't a formal mentor, but an informal mentor, the man that was standing at the bottom of the stairs where it said to me, welcome to Toastmasters. And he said, my name's Joseph. And I said, oh, yes, I've seen you around town. And he said, come on in. And so I went in, and that night at the end of the meeting, he said, we would love you to join our club, which was magic words to me, because up until then, I didn't know if I was smart enough, if they liked me enough, if I could afford it, if I was the right fit, if there was some secret code you had to pass or say to get involved. I didn't know anything. And by him saying those magic words, I knew that I was accepted and that I could actually consider joining. So in that club success, it's another element to consider what you do to your guests. What do you say to them when they show up? How do we treat them? Would you treat somebody that visited your home? They're just as nervous or more nervous than somebody who arrives at your home. Yes. Yes.
You were talking about diversity a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Not only ethnic diversity
Not only ethnic diversity, age diversity, occupational diversity, but I think what's really important is, as you said, you must get outside your club because it gets boring and you see so much diversity in the way different clubs run. They have different ideas. They have a different format. So what you're saying, you've got to get outside your club. It's just too constraining and it's too restricting.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. So what else is important when you consider if your club was successful, what would you be looking at? Yes.
Speeches every week.
Speeches every week. Yes, yes. Speeches every week, for sure. Absolutely. That's what we're there for. We signed up. That's what we pay the money to do, to present speeches and get feedback, to work the program. So don't push the program that you've paid for aside and go, oh, I'm going to do it my way. If you're going to do it your way, you don't have to pay. You don't have to join. You can just go home and find some friends. Do it for nothing. Yes. So work the program, do speeches. And as the Toastmaster Promise says, how many of you are familiar with the Toastmaster Promise? Okay. So to-do list. Number one, when you leave this session or when you leave here today, go to toastmasters.org and look up the Toastmasters Promise, print it out, and take it to your club next week and share it. Because if you work the Toastmasters Promise, your club will be President's Distinguished. Your members will be very successful in Toastmasters. You will have successful clubs and successful members. If you keep your promise to yourself, to your club, to your fellow members, to your area, your division, your district, and the organization that you joined. So one of the lines in the Toastmasters Promise says that I promise to prepare fully for each assignment. One of the things for me that is successful in a club environment is when we schedule far enough in advance that I can prepare fully. For me, walking into a meeting and somebody saying, oh, we need you to speak today, that sets me up for failure. I'm sorry. We're here to set one another up for success. And if I've promised to prepare fully to the best of my ability, I don't have a chance if you're asking me as I walk in the door. Respect your members and the fact that they promised you, the club themselves, that they would prepare fully. Okay. What else breeds or would you call success in your club? Yes.
The robust mentor-mentee system.
Yes.
Which is actually, working.
Yes.
Quite often on paper.
For sure. So thank you. So a robust mentorship relationship in the organization, within your club, maybe even outside if you're looking at expanding outside of your club. So look at who is mentoring in your club. So in my home club, we have 9 executive officers, not 7. We have a coordinator of mentorship. That is number 8. And we have a coordinator of special events, which is number 9. Now that's in our memorandum of understanding, the amendment that goes to our club. So they're officially filed in our club agreement that we have 9 officer roles. So we have a very robust mentor relationship in our club. As soon as a member pays their money and they've come to a couple of meetings, our mentoring coordinator's right there saying, Who would you like as your mentor? Spend the next couple of weeks looking around, seeing who you would relate to, what you want to learn next, what would be comfortable for you, and let us know, and we'll have a meeting. And that person is like the matchmaker. They negotiate the relationship. They do the bidding. So they go and say, okay, Pat, Abhijit has asked for you to be his mentor. Are you willing to do that? Pat might say, well, can I talk to Abhijit? Or, am I his first choice, second choice? No, I'm kidding. But that person is actually checking when, say, Abhijit asks for Pat, that coordinator's looking at Pat and saying, have you got capacity to take on another one? Right? So there's all those things brokering that takes place, but it's an active role and it's really powerful. The other thing we do in our mentoring program in our club is that every 6 months we go around and say, is this still working? Do you want to go another 6 months? Don't hook people up forever, because you want to stay uncomfortable in your club. If you are comfortable in your club, you're not frightened, you've got everything under control, and you're the boss, and you're the great star in your club, change clubs. Go find some place where you are uncomfortable and you're learning again. Don't get comfortable being I got this. Everybody comes to me. That might be nice for your ego, but that's not great for your learning. Be uncomfortable in Toastmasters. That is a sign of a successful club from my definition, if people are uncomfortable. And when they're phoning their mentor going, oh my gosh, I need help. Yes.
Too often we focus on the new members and we take the existing members for granted. But what I learned is when you're a president, people look up to you. So you have to compliment the existing members too. Even they are looking for recognition. And if you initiate the spark in one of the older members, but I'm not in the sense of age, but people who have been with the club for longer, they'll be your best advocate.
Yes.
So take care of your existing members as well.
Yes. Okay, great. So thank you for sharing some of your ideas in terms of successful clubs. Let me share a story and some of the things that I realized were really important for club success. When I was district director or district governor back in 2001-2, I was asked to be a club coach. And I went, I am a little busy at the moment. No, absolutely not. They said, we only want you. And I said, not interested. I'll send you a couple of people. You can interview them because I think fit is important. I sent off, they interviewed, they came back, no go. We still want you. And this isn't about me, okay? Although it sounds like it at the moment. They said, we don't want anybody else. I said, but I've got a great person, potential coach. Let's talk to them. Give them a chance. This isn't going to happen for me. Well, it turned out that 2 months later, they came back again several times. And I finally said, okay. But I said, here's the rules. And I sat down as a potential coach. Although I was district director and I was responsible for the district, I sat down and I listed all the things that it specified somewhere in Toastmasters to make a club successful. I visited the club, and one of the things that I first saw them do was that they had 3 members at that meeting, and a guest walked in, and they started talking to the guest, and the first thing, after they had the preliminary conversation, would you like to join? What do you do? Who are you? That type of thing. They said, you would make a great treasurer. We need a treasurer. I was horrified. I went, this person walked in to buy a sandwich and you're telling them that they have to build the sandwich. This person didn't come to save the club. This person came looking for a communication and leadership program. I said, no more. No more doing that to people that walk in the door. Treat those people with honor and respect and ask them what they're coming for. Don't start getting them to solve your problems. So that was the number one thing. The second thing I heard was a lot of negative talk. And I said, no more negative talk. Every time somebody does a word or a phrase or a sentence that's negative in this club, let's just clap our hand. It's like, stop. To stop this unconscious flow of negativity. It was, oh, we don't have very many people. Oh, this person's sick. They're not coming today. We're going to have a hard time. All those words that made it feel so down. It was a heavy burden to walk into that room. How many of us want to go to Toastmasters to feel heavy and depressed? Well, not me. We get enough of that driving on the freeway or, other places. But we don't go to Toastmasters to do that. We go to Toastmasters to learn. And Smedley said that we learn best in times of enjoyment. Where's the enjoyment in listening to people moan and groan? So no negative talk. If the executive wants to solve the problems, be problem solvers, but you're not doing it standing in the membership. Watch the tone that sets the tone. Really important. The third thing we looked at, I said, do you have all your officers and do you hold a monthly executive meeting to lead this club? And they said no. I said that changes this month. You must have leaders that are in training and supporting one another in order to lead the club. How do you know where you're going if nobody's in charge? What if we all got on a bus and we were told to bring our own map of where we want to go? Who's going to win? Who's going to actually decide where we end up if everybody's got a different idea of where we're going? We have to have a solid plan to move forward. And what's that called in our Toastmasters program? Distinguished Club Plan in our club. You have to have a distinguished club plan. If I left Victoria, British Columbia, and I didn't know where Santa Clara was, do you think I would have got here yesterday? No. I could have been in Toronto, Canada. I wouldn't know. The same thing applies. If you don't plan for success, I can almost guarantee that you're not going to get to success. So why put in the effort if you don't have a plan? So look at your distinguished plan. So have your executive meet on a regular basis. Plan how you're going to achieve the goals. That's part of the learning process in Toastmasters. I learned to really focus on strategic planning just by sitting down and doing the distinguished club plan. The process that we go through in deciding what the goals are and how we're getting there, and to talk to each of the members of who's going to achieve a level 3 this year and who's going to get a level 5, who's going to, what are individuals going to do? What are they committing to do? Get them to build their goals. Then you support them through that mentoring program. That is a transferable skill. That's why people want to be on club executive. Because you get to help people reach their goals. It's all transferable. Sitting down as a team of 9 or 7 diverse people to arrive at that goal and plan the steps is all transferable. Everything we do in Toastmasters is transferable. Absolutely everything, my experience. So you have to have an executive meeting on a monthly basis. One of the things that I insisted on was that they now start and plan. Their agendas had to be published a minimum of 2 weeks in advance so people could prepare. Because with only 3 to 5 members in that club, they were going to have a whole bunch of new members that didn't know how to do general evaluator, didn't know how to do Toastmaster, didn't know how to give a speech. We were hearing icebreakers. So they needed to plan in advance. They had to look at how they greeted guests. We put together a welcome package for guests, but also one for new members. we had to change the practice that when a guest walked in and when they were leaving, we asked them to join. We made sure that we had their email and we could send them an application, and that we would have a follow-up call with them, just like you would do any sales. My experience nowadays is that every single person that I see walk into my Toastmaster Club has researched. You know, back in the 40s and the 50s when Smedley was around and some of our previous members were around, people came to Toastmasters curious. They came to see what it was about. That doesn't happen anymore. Everybody I know is connected. They've all done their research. I can't remember the last time that I saw a guest walk in that knew nothing about Toastmasters. They were there not to kick tires. They were there to buy the car. So if we don't ask them, they might be like me and never come back a second time because they didn't meet the mark. Somebody didn't like them, or that we thought they couldn't afford it, or they weren't smart enough, or whatever the reason is. Whatever our internal insecurities are come to play. So ask them to join. Here's an application. We'd love you to consider membership in our club. That's excellence for me. You had a hand up?
Just in contrast, I think I agree with you about people have done their research. However, there are also a category of people whose research is rather loosely focused. So our club is on Meetup multiple times, and we have the word entrepreneur in our club name. People just come by and say, you know, I kind of want to take the pulse of Silicon Valley. It's really curious, but and then you need to kind of, step back and explain what we do and how we fit in. So it's a mix, I'd say.
Okay, thank you for that. One of the things that I do, because I was membership for the last 2 years in my club, is we're on Meetup, and we get a lot of inquiries, but I've really put a detailed information article on there about what we do and the structure and the purpose, and that it's an education program. Because people interpret it as I'm going to come and not make friends, but I'm going to go and get business connections. I'm going to promote my business, and I'm pretty clear that it's not networking. I put education, we're education focused, it's communication, we're talking about listening, thinking, speaking, and I think that helps. I get the odd inquiry that's not read the section, but it helps, yeah. So targeting, some of those were the basic things. The other thing, so two weeks in advance so people can prepare, so you're setting people up for success. The other thing was to up the evaluations, that there are no whitewashes in the club and there are no slaughters. I mean, excuse the word, but sometimes we just slaughter our speakers, right? We go, well, and then we start with a whole litany of things that didn't work, and the poor person goes, well, I've had it, I'm quitting. And so we want to find that balance. 1 or 2 suggestions are about what people can consume, right? And one of the things that I love in a larger club is that the diversity of feedback you get, right? Everybody here got feedback that you go, oh, that wouldn't work for me. Anybody got feedback like that? Me, I've got feedback. I go, that's just not me. I'm not doing that. Like I had this woman that always said, you should do great big gestures. And I'm going, no, I shouldn't do great big gestures. And then about 3 months later, she'd be my evaluator again, and it was the same suggestion. And I went to her and I said, giving me that suggestion over and over again is not going to work. And the next time she evaluated, she gave me big gestures again. I thought, what are we missing? Yeah. So listen to one another and be considerate to one another. And be creative in your suggestions. Give what applies, what's suitable for the people, but also where they are in their development. Okay, so really look at those values and the things that you can add up in terms of value. So the next thing I want to talk about, so that's kind of the things that the basic things that I think are really important for excellence. The last thing I want to talk about is membership. So one of the things that I know for me is that I am bored when there's 8 people in the club. I'm sorry. But if Mary is evaluating me every second time I speak, I'm going, like, how long till Mary and I understand this, right? So diversity, again, in numbers, you have to have numbers. My home club, we meet at 7 o'clock in the morning. We have ideally, our ideal number, which we're not at right now, is 32. That's our magic number. That is when our club hums. There is an excitement, there's an anticipation, we're lined up to speak. We do not do non-path speeches. That's another thing in Club Excellence. No manual or project speeches. No free speeches. I'm sorry. No, you're taking our time. I'm here to learn the program. I'm here to learn to be better communicator and speaker, listener, and you get up and do a throwaway speech. I don't learn anything from that. I have no criteria in which to think and listen and evaluate you from. Don't waste our time. Work the program. Honor your participants. Honor your fellow members who signed up to learn the program. Okay. We, when we first started and I became the coach of that club, they did all throwaway speeches. I call them throwaway because they're hard to evaluate what criteria they want something that they're good at. And how do you get them to improve? What are their goals? And stretching, to be uncomfortable. They were staying where they were comfortable because it was just something they could get up and do. So how do we stretch them? By being in the program. So sometimes it's changing the culture, and I challenge you to change the culture in your club. Maybe one step at a time. Look at the things that perhaps aren't at the excellence level. If it's membership, get creative. Talk to the district about outreach. How do you do more different marketing? Have you got a niche market? Who do you want? Get creative, think outside of the box. Ask other people how you would do it if your club is stuck. Don't stay stuck, okay? So one of the things I want to talk about for a few minutes is the special synergy that happens if you are on an executive committee in your club, because I believe that this is the core of creating excellence. And to think about how you participate, who you are when you do this, whether as a member of your club, as a member of your executive. So Patrick Lencioni, in his book, The Ideal Team Player, which I have a copy of here, which I carry around with me, Patrick Lencioni in this book talks about the three vital virtues of any great team player. And Toastmasters is a team sport. Right? Everybody agree? We're in here together. We got one another's back. We support, we pick up, we dust off, we cheer. All those things that we learn how to do in this team sport. Lencioni says that on your team, you want people, and rather than looking out there and judging you, I look at myself. He said the first thing that you want your team players to be is humble. What does humble mean? Well, he talks about it that you want the best for the group, that it's not your ego, it's not me, but it's, wow, I want our club to be successful, then I'll be successful, right? So it's the team, working for the team, bringing your best to the team. It's bringing your thoughts, your ideas to the executive meeting and being engaged, being fully participating. So being humble, focusing on how can we make it better, that better environment. The second thing that Lencioni talks about is hungry. How many of you are hungry when you go to Toastmasters? What can I learn? How can I be better? What am I working on? So that when we are scheduled for a speech, we've got something specific that we're asking our evaluator to give us feedback on. So to be hungry, always wanting to be better, going the extra mile. If somebody says, oh, can somebody do this? You raise your hand because you're hungry for a new experience. Knowing that in Toastmasters, we do things all the time that we don't know how to do. Never done it before, but I'm willing to give it a go. Never been an area director before, but sounds pretty challenging. I think I'll take that on. I think I could grow, right? Yeah. And the third virtue for a great team player, Lencioni says, is to be smart. Now he talks about specifically being people smart. So being able to read people, having that emotional intelligence. I also think when we're on the club executive and member of Toastmasters, that there's a couple of other things that it's good to be smart in. Is people smart for sure, absolutely. And I think we learn this and can hone this in the Toastmasters program. But the other ones are to be policy smart, so we're not violating or breaking rules. I think that's really important when you're a club executive member, that you actually know the rules. It's part of our learning. What are the deadlines? So you have to be process smart as well. What are the deadlines? When does your club fall out of good standing and you lose access to Club Central? You need to know that if you're in charge of the club and you're leading the club. So be process smart, policy smart, people smart, and anything else that you can be smart about, just knowing your people and supporting them. So really, in my opinion, I ask myself all the time, is that how I show up in my club? Right. So let's talk a bit about attitude. One of the things that I find really affects excellence in a club is attitude. And that believing also linked with attitude is legacy. So I'll talk about attitude first, and then I'll go to legacy. And I'm just looking at time. Abhijit, what do I have for time? 20 minutes? Okay, great. So looking at attitude, one of the things that I discovered this also when I started working with that club as a club coach, that they didn't really, they weren't that keen on doing things differently. That made it really tough to work with doing things differently. So how many of us love change? Okay, some of us do, some of us, and we're probably early adopters of change. I am in some things way out on the edge. I'm running to change it because that's what I love. There are other things I am way back in the crowd. And I go, oh, you jump off the cliff first, right? Way you go, check out the boundaries. So attitude in a club is really important. It's helping people be on the edge, being challenged to go forward. Having a great belief, and this is part of the legacy, having a great belief and building a reputation of your club. Like my club is known as one of the top 3 clubs in District 21. We are super proud of that because that took years and years and years of work. Years of members coming and going, recruiting, people working their education program going on. But the pride in that happens. It's like that familial pride. A few years ago, somebody came to me in district leadership and said, we're having trouble finding area directors. And I said, where have you looked? They said, well, we've put out a call. And I said, are you asking me to make recommendations? They said, well, do you know anybody? And I said, well, I'm in one of the top 3 clubs in the district. I think I know some people. And at the end of that week, we had 4 area directors out of my club and 1 division director. Were we proud as a club? Absolutely. That we had that many leaders in our club that were willing to step up when they knew somebody was looking. They're willing to be uncomfortable because we are uncomfortable all the time in our club. Yeah. So look at your pride in your club and what stops that. And build that. Build a reputation. When someone asks you, I'm looking for a new club, could you recommend it? What do you actually look for?
The interests of the person.
Okay, the interest, so some kind of fit.
Relatability to the club.
Okay, relatability to the club. What else do you look for? Okay, the attitude. Okay. What else do you look for? So for me, because lots of clubs I don't know, I open up Toastmasters.org and I go to the dashboard. How many of you have been at the dashboard? I go and see our club. I go and check our club and see how we're doing. Yes, dashboard is our brag sheet as a club. So we want to check it. We want to go, whoo, we're doing great. We're right on target. Get engaged with your club and what's happening and as people are sending in project completions. Make sure that there's celebration around those, yes. So I go to the dashboard to look for clubs that I would recommend. The first thing I do is how many members they got. And this is just factual stuff, right? But I'm going to do the factual stuff first. I check, okay, these clubs all have 20 plus members. Okay, now let's see how many of them are working the program, because I'm not sending anybody to a club that's not working the program. So then I check goals. How many people have trained their officers twice, or else they're not caring? In my opinion, that's my judgment. And how many are achieving goals, because are they working the program? Because I'm not going to send a buyer to somebody who's not selling the right product or not selling a product at all. Right? So then I follow up, after I've got that data, then I follow up and I say, oh, what's the environment like in these clubs? And then I talk to the district director or the division director to check out what's going on in the club. Who's in this club? What's it like? Those kind of questions. But your dashboard tells the truth. You can say, oh, we do speeches. Maybe you do speeches, but are they in the dashboard? Because that's your advertisement, that's your report card. So use that. People will make decisions based on that. So legacy is critical, yeah. So other things around, well, let's go back. Let's talk about pathways for just a minute. A question for you. What are the 5 core competencies in the pathway program test? Yes.
Leadership, presentation skills,
Vision,
planning.
communication, and vision.
They might consider those ones.
Speaking, management, confidence.
Yes?
Management, confidence.
Those are 3, yes? Public speaking, interpersonal communication,
Yeah, communication.
strategic leadership, management, confidence. Those are important to keep in mind when you have guests coming. What are the competencies in our program? So there's many. We know there's over 300 core competencies in the Toastmasters Pathway program. So everything that was in the, some of you won't know this, but in the old legacy program, were all transferred into Pathways, different format, but over 300 competencies were built into Pathways. These are the 5 core competencies when people are looking. So when people come and say, what do you have to offer us? You can make it clear by public speaking, interpersonal communication, management, strategic leadership, and confidence. Okay. Right. So again, it's knowing the program, being program smart as well. Okay. So let's stop talking and talk about challenges that you might have or things that get in the way of your club being excellent. Any challenges that you want to share and work on here or talk about? Yes.
I feel after COVID, when things went online, we lost that energy that we felt in the room, and that's when we started to see the attrition. And I wish to see that come back in online forum, but I still don't know how.
Yes, yes. So are you still online?
Yes.
Yes.
We are hoping to move to hybrid, but some people, because of the advantages of online, many people who are not here, they have joined our club. So we are planning to go hybrid then.
Yes. So I think this is a very interesting situation that we're in, and I'm interested in other people if you've transitioned from totally online to hybrid and perhaps going to in-person. My home club, we've done that. We went fully online. We went from 32 to about 12, between 12 and 15 right away. We didn't recruit online out of country or anything. We stayed, we wanted, because our plan was to go back in person. We've been hybrid now for a year, and it's painful. Don't like it. Our club doesn't like it. Our members don't like it. We feel like there's us and them. No insult to you online today. We're glad you're here. But there's a different experience, right? And I think we present differently when we're online versus when we're in person. It was a brand new skill for me to go back in front of people, because it's like, oh my gosh, I could do all of these things when I'm behind a screen, and now it's different. So we as a club made it a very hard decision to leave the hybrid model, and we gave our members 6 months notice. So the last time we did dues renewal, we said we're as a club going to go totally back in person, because that's where we feel we excel. That's our product that we excel in. I think that Toastmasters has done a phenomenal job of teaching us how to present online. And I think if it works for you in your membership, fantastic. Hybrid, I think, is an evolution process, and I think that some people will be attracted to it and some won't. If it doesn't fit you, find something else. And I know there's great club loyalty, but yeah, I think it's a real tough thing. One of the circumstances that we looked at, it was that how much were we just a victim of circumstance? So COVID came, which nobody invited. COVID came, and we were forced, in order to survive and keep the lights on, to go online, which we did. Then we started feeling, oh, we've got other options. We're going to go to a hybrid model. And we went to the hybrid model, which most of us online and in person were pushing and shoving, going, we've got the technology. We were in a place with technology, but it was the spirit of it that just didn't work. And I finally said to the executive, why are we doing something that circumstance has caused us to do? Why don't we just decide our own fate? We don't have to be a victim to COVID. We can go back in person if we want. Let's treat our members with respect, help them find a good club, and go back to where we would be where we felt we did a good job. And that's what we did. But it was hard, because we're going to, on October 1st, we're going to lose 3 members. That's hard. It's not 3 that matters, it's the people. It's 3 people, not 3. Yeah, so a tough one, but I think you have to commit to whatever you're going to do. Is just commit and just say that's how it is and that's what it's going to be, and we're going to be the very best online or the very best hybrid, and here's the plan. And sometimes hybrid clubs have been planning get-togethers and some physical, and some people won't be able to do that because there's offshore and across the country, etc. So we actually had coffee parties after our club, because we meet at 7 o'clock in the morning and we're an hour and 10 minutes. So at 8:15, we would have a 5-minute break, and we would have another Zoom link that they'd come back and bring their coffee, and we'd have coffee together and just gab. But that's really hard also, because one person speaks, somebody else can't speak. So it's awkward, but if it's the best you can do, it's the best you can do, and if it helps connect people, yeah. Question?
Yes, in my club, we have a challenge to get speakers to sign up. So I don't know how I can motivate them. It's hard, but
Has anybody here ever been in, let me think, a university course? Did you get assigned an assignment and a deadline? I give my mentees that I mentor in our club, I give them deadlines. And I call them on it. So I just had a conversation last week with one of my mentees who said she was going to do 6 speeches in the next year. And I said, you know what, 3 months have gone by and you haven't done a speech. And I'm waiting. You've got 6 to do. Could you get some dates in Easy Speak? So I call her on it. That's my job. That's what I promised to do when I agreed to mentor her. So get your mentors accountable. Accountability is a really good thing because remember, we're all uncomfortable in Toastmasters, or we should be. And so we procrastinate. We go, oh, I don't know how to do it. Reach out to your mentor. Be the mentor that follows up and holds people accountable. At work, we can't squirm. How many of you can squirm away at work? I was never able to squirm away at work. So this is an accountability exercise that Toastmasters also. This is honoring the people that said, these are my goals. When you say, hey, I'm just checking in. What do you need? How can I help you to reach your goal? That's honoring them. That's respecting them. That's holding them capable. And that breeds success, right? We want success in the club. Yeah, so ask your mentors to step up. But also, what we've done, just starting now, because we've got a lot of new members in our club because of the rebuilding after COVID, is we've had our VP of Education actually schedule people. So a couple of years ago, we were getting near the end of the year, and we were falling behind in what our perceived goals were. And our VP called everybody and said, how many speeches will you be able to do before the end of the year? And guaranteed. And he wrote them down, and then he scheduled us, and we did it, and we met our goals. But if he wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have made our goals. So hold people accountable, ask them to make a commitment, just as they do the Toastmaster promise. Ask them to help the club be successful, and them to stay on target with their goals. Accountability is really critical. We have it everywhere in our lives. Why not in our education?
Can I share something?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I know you mentioned that we should go out of our clubs, but when I entered my club, it is a corporate club from Intel. And the way I entered into the culture, and since I did not attend any club outside, what we were supposed to do is when you enter in this club, you take this oath, right, that you are committed to your success. And as a result of that, there is a random sign-up sheet of people that you just mentioned, that for all of the year, everyone knows when they are supposed to speak. And we will get notification that you have your time and you have to speak. Yeah. And I remember that I wouldn't have signed up for speeches, and it's like, okay, I am responsible for it. If I don't give the speech, I have to find the replacement.
Yes.
And that made me give all the speeches all this years. And also on the Easy Speak, Toastmaster assign the roles randomly, and if you can't make it, you are responsible to find the replacement for you. That made us also attend different roles and give all the speeches. And I thought in Toastmaster, it's always like that. And because I entered in that culture, it made so easy for everyone. No one ever asked that, why am I on this sign-up sheet? It's like, if you're entering this club, this is how it works.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that, and that's a great reminder. That's one of the things that we have in our club, is that if you are assigned to a role and you're unable to make it, you have to find your replacement. Believe me, it's easier to do it than to find someone to do it. Right? Yes, it is painful. If you're going, oh, I haven't got my speech written, and my meeting's in 2 days. I wonder if I can get Suzanne to put a speech together, or maybe I can call Adrian, and you could sit down and write the speech. Yes. So hold people accountable again. Yes.
I just want to share the experience about going to transition.
Yes.
We were an advanced club. Our club is called Next Step Toastmasters. And there were lots of very advanced speakers, and it was very robust. And then it hit. Initially online, there were a lot of members actually because people from all over the world were joining. But after a while, we dwindled down to the point where we were down to the bare minimum, like 8. So we made the decision. We said, this is not working. And so what are we going to do? Number one, so this is kind of adapting. We actually went back full-time now, in person. So we went from 8 to now we gain another 9 members. Our first goal is membership now.
Yes.
And we actually changed from advanced to a regular club so that we can get more members because it's so difficult to get people to join an advanced club because that's the additional requirement. But that's step by step. But what really has been exciting is that in person, the energy is very different. You just feel that energy. And so the members now are much more excited, even though we are kind of rebuilding.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that. So people who are kind of hesitant about going back in person, you might want to consider that. It's completely different energy than when you just do purely online.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. And just a final comment on that. We were just at the International Convention, and the data that's being collected worldwide is that the greatest regrowth of clubs is those who have gone back in person. At least twice the speed of online or hybrid clubs, so that people are lined up. Like we're just getting guests every week in our meetings because we've gone back in person. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just the last this woman and this man said is, and what your very important point at the beginning is you must stay
uncomfortable in your club. And so we have people in our club that have just gotten used to keeping their pajamas on and sitting in front of a Zoom camera, and they're just comfortable. They are not improving.
Yeah.
And so I think the last couple of people that have talked, I think it's super important.
Yes,
Just
thank
not
you.
be comfortable on Zoom.
It is. It's a challenge, and it's a time issue also because it became very convenient, and we've all been there. Yes. So, over to Jamal.
Yeah. When you said people's smartness, I would like to know more about it. People's smartness, because it's hard sometimes to get people to sign up, and they just keep running away saying they have personal problems, this, that. Tell me more.
I think for me, people smart means that you can read and understand people. It's not getting people to do what you want them to do, but helping them do what they want to do. So I think we really have to look at our intentions. We can come at things from 2 ways. I want you as a member of my club, or would you like to join Toastmasters? Here's something for you. So if we approach people like, you're going to do what I need you to do, they're most likely going to run away from you. That's not how you sell, but you have to meet their needs. And as was mentioned, Cheryl mentioned yesterday in one of her programs, you have to name the pain, and you have to then give them a solution. So we're a communication program for listening. We teach people how to listen, which is a failing art. Thinking, which is required. After you listen, you need to think deeply and process the information, and then you get to speak in that order. And both public communication, presentation skills, and interpersonal speaking. So, that often helps people when they're looking to ease the pain. And then we can go in more depth when we know more about them. But that's... So in closing, because we're looking at red all over the place here, I would love to spend hours talking to you about your clubs and the successes you've had in having successful clubs and bringing them to success. If you have a club that's successful, you will naturally be a great club coach, because you experience success. You know what success feels like. You know what it looks like. You will be a superb area director because your goal and your project is to help all clubs achieve excellence. Everything in Toastmasters, the district cannot be successful if we are not successful members and our clubs are not excellent. Everything in Toastmasters relies on us being great students and being great supports to one another and building that excellent environment where we thrive. And the other thing is that member retention disappears. because people want to be there. They're stretching and growing, and there's always another opportunity. So build, from your perspective, club excellence. Do what you need to do in your club. Stretch. Suggest something that might not be popular. Make a case for it, but build excellence, and you'll experience excellence. So thank you for your time and this practical, hopefully practical discussion. Thank you.
Do you remember the yes, yes from Bahamas?
Yes, yes.
Are you ready to become uncomfortable in your club?
Yes, yes.
One more time.
Yes, yes.
Give a big hand to Pat Johnson.